Hey everyone, you're very welcome back to the OPEX Fitness Podcast, where fitness is explained. I am your host, Robbie Bourke, and I'm joined on today's show by Coach Mike Bann. Mike is one of the head coaches at OPEX, and on this episode, we dive into Mike's background, how Mike got involved with OPEX, Mike's current role within OPEX. Mike and I discuss the importance of assessment and how this is an essential piece to the coaching puzzle. I asked Mike about his future aspirations, both personally and professionally. Mike gives us his current and top book recommendations. And finally, I asked Mike the big question. If he could invite 5 people to dinner, dead or alive, who would he invite and why? Guys, this was a great episode with Mike. I know you're going to love it. Stay with us. Okay, we're on Mike Bann, the man. All right, in for our OPEX segment. So we're going to, for the people watching and listening, you're going to get to know Mike Bann, who is one of the head coaches at OPEX. But for people watching on video, we're just going to show our t-shirts. Yeah, I got OPEX, but Mike has the really stylish aerodynamic. Wow, look at that.
Fine dining.
That is classic. So, Mike, tell us about yourself. Where are you from? How you got into this whole fitness journey? Why OPEX? How did you get involved at OPEX? And sort of where you see yourself going forward in OPEX or even just in your own career. So, take it away, my man.
Yeah, well, from Scottsdale, Arizona. So I'm the only native that I know of.
You're from Scottsdale?
Yeah, man, no one is. I'm like the only guy. There's like 5 of us left.
But where's your brother? He's living in Virginia, you know?
No, he's in Arkansas.
I knew.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm from Scottsdale, Arizona. Got into fitness, coaching, strength conditioning just over 10 years ago. And I guess actually I got into it in high school. And I can only say that because less than a year ago, maybe just about a year ago, this random guy who used to be a freshman or a sophomore or whatever when I was a senior, he used to lift with me and I used to help him and try and coach him a little bit when I was only 18. He reaches out to me less than a year ago and he's like, man, I went to the gym and I randomly thought about you, so I decided to add you on Facebook and to see how you're doing. And so I was like, wow, you went to the gym and you thought about me because I helped you 14 something, 12 something years ago. So I guess maybe I've been doing this since I was around 17, 18, but from an academic studying this perspective, since I was about 21-ish now. So I'm 32, so it's about 11 years of, kind of being in the trenches and just trying to figure a lot of stuff out and try and understand the human puzzle. So, and then probably about just over 4 years ago, James Fitzgerald reached out to me and he asked me to become his head guy for everything on site and all that. And then, over the years, he basically asked me to take over for the CCP assessment modules. So basically refine that, build that out, make that better, and then teach coaches how to have better detective skills. Because at the end of the day, a program without a really good assessment is just a blog. So that's kind of my role at OPEX now, is I teach coaches how to have really good detective skills. And not just in the sense of understanding movement, but understanding energy systems, also understanding deeper level diagnostic type stuff. So, from a perspective of like functional medicine, but not medicine. Just understanding functional physiology, functional biochemistry, functional anatomy, etc. So I teach coaches how to have higher order understanding with that, so they can kind of get a better idea of how to help people. Just because if you understand all the principles, you can work with anyone. You don't just have to work with CrossFitters. You can work with baseball players, football players, tactical athletes, firefighters, mom, pa, and CrossFitters. So the principles kind of transcend all paradigms, and that's what my role at OPEX is now, to teach that.
So, Mike, just going a little bit deeper on that with assessment, because like as Paul Chek has said, and other people often quote this, I originally heard from Paul, is that, if you're not assessing, you're guessing, So to you, when you hear the word assessment, what does that mean to you? Because like you could say assessment to someone who's a physio and it's just an orthopedic assessment. You could say to a functional medicine doctor and it's running labs. You could say to a strength conditioning coach and it's a whole athletic profile. So like with you and your role at OPEX, do you really take more of a really like 30,000 square foot view, and like it's not just one of those areas, like we really kind of delve into all those because again of the complexity of the human being and the non-linearity that is the human species. So maybe just touching on that, and maybe like how deep does assessment really go within OPEX?
Yeah, well, I guess to simplify what assessment is truth. That's it. That's what it means to me. So, the truth and removing fantasy and
And
bringing
nothing
in
but the
reality.
truth.
That's right. Nothing but the truth. So, for some people, it just means looking at biomechanics and understanding where biomechanics does matter. So, sometimes biomechanics is really important, especially in performance. You've got to have the barbell in the right spot to lift the most amount of weight. We know this. Physics matters. Um, but also assessment means me understanding how to assess where somebody sits with nutrition, so I know how to start them with nutrition. Assessment could also mean looking at your CBC, CMP, a lipid panel, vitamin D status, whatever, and being able to dig into that and understand where your limiting factors are. So I think assessment really is just about figuring out where someone sits and then understanding what's their limiting factors. And then a great coach just goes in and takes that limiting factor and removes it and lets the client get better on their own. So that's what comes to my mind with assessment. Sometimes it's physiology, sometimes it's, psychology, quote unquote. Mindset might be a better way to word it. Sometimes it's just straight up biomechanics.
Yeah. Mike, and just going off that, there'll be some individuals, coaches, maybe even physicians watching and listening on this, and a lot of them will have different views and opinions on, really should a coach be interpreting the blood panel? Like, is that appropriate? Should they be running functional labs? Should they be doing orthopedic assessments? And like, there's a lot of people saying, listen, this is where fitness is going to go in 20, 30 years. It's all going to be just one. These separations won't probably exist anymore. I know James is kind of big on that in the future, sort of where fitness is, and he's like, fitness and medicine are just going to end up like this. They're just going to be like, sunshine and air and water. They're going to be that natural to us. And hopefully that is the way it's going. But like, my answer to that, and before I let you give your answer, would be that you don't necessarily have to be the individual that has to have all those skills. You could just have people around you have those skills. So let's say with blood interpretations, it could be just, you could say, I'm going to refer you on to a doctor who I'm close with to get his opinion on this blood panel. And then same too with a good physical therapist if you are the coach, let's say, in the middle there. So just what would your sort of answer be to that? Because I know there could be maybe physios, chiros, doctors, and coaches all watching and listening to this, and they're kind of thinking like, first someone might think, I don't have that skill set, should I learn it? And then other people might think it's inappropriate for some people to dip in or step on toes. So just what would your view be on that?
Yeah, well, I think I would trace it back to kind of how, if you look at the history of the FMS, the FMS came around and there were physios and physical therapists and whatnot that are like, hey, movement assessment is not what coaches do. We do that. And that limits, the capacity to deliver a good service. So that doesn't necessarily mean that at the time that client is doing, ACL rehab, or the coach is doing ACL rehab. But understanding mechanisms is, I would argue, absolutely imperative. So if I'm working with somebody and I can see that their immune system is extremely suppressed. By the way, sorry, they're making coffee back there.
No, that's good. That's good. That's good.
But yeah, so like if I can see that someone's immune system is extremely suppressed for whatever reason, I might know how to program a little bit better. Maybe 21-15-9 of thrusters and pull-ups is not the best answer for this client.
Really?
Yeah, really. Mind blown, right? So
I feel terrible. Just keep going. Just keep going. You're fine.
Yeah, I feel that for coaches that don't understand this stuff, you should definitely refer out. I'm not saying that I'm going to cure cancer, diagnose based on blood work, but if I can understand where somebody sits, in a fitness continuum, how close are they to like needing rehab, functional medicine, et cetera, or how close are they to like performance and even death a little bit further beyond the performance line? That just gives me better insight to knowing, reps, sets, the verbiage I might use, how much volume they're going to have, the time under tension. All of that actually can be kind of determined through not just looking at movement, but also understanding labs. Then on top of that, you start seeing some labs and you're like, wow, you seem to have an issue with methylation, and I'm not doing any genetic testing with this individual, but if they have elevated homocysteine, that's a marker for that. Maybe I can recommend some nutritional guidelines that could just help support that, So I think, over time it will, kind of like what you said earlier, it will get to that where coaches are going to need to look at that. But that doesn't mean that all coaches should be doing it.
Yeah.
Just like not all coaches should be, looking at neurodynamics. But I will look at, neurodynamics. I will look at adverse neural tension because if I'm working with an overhead athlete that's going to throw a baseball 97 miles an hour, I
Yeah.
better understand where his adverse neural tension is. Does he have ulnar nerve issues? I better understand that so at least I can refer that out to the right person. So if I'm going to, help people, I need to know who I would need to refer out to when it does get out of my scope. And the only way to really know that is to be able to somewhat speak their language. I can't go to France and not speak a single word of French. I got to at least know how to ask for directions. That doesn't mean I got to speak astrophysics and argue politics and
Yeah.
geoeconomics, but I got to at least understand, hey, where's the bathroom? It's over there. Awesome. I'm going to take my client and refer him to that person.
What's Mike Bann's plans for the future within OPEX or within your own sort of professional career? What are your hopes and aspirations going forward for OPEX as an organization and just as yourself as an individual?
Yeah, well, next year I start the journey for medical school. So I'm finishing up
Dr. Bann.
Yeah. But yeah, med school next year. That's the goal. I'm finishing up one of my graduate degrees this year in a few months.
Great.
And then I'll start all the prerequisites and the studying for all the tests and all that stuff that I have to do.
It's naturopathic or OD? Is it OD or ND you're going for?
So it's naturopath, but in Arizona, the scope is actually incredible. So in Arizona, a naturopathic doctor is considered a naturopathic medical doctor. Their scope is pretty much the same as a medical doctor or a DO, a doctor of osteopathy. So as a naturopathic medical doctor, it's a 4-year program. The first 2 years are pretty much identical. Like you have all the pharmacology, microbiology, biochemistry, anatomy and physiology and all that stuff.
You'll be in your element, Bann. You'll be in your element.
I hope so. And then the last 2 years, instead of doing, rotations with surgeons and OBGYNs and emergency medicine, you're doing rotations with functional medicine instead, pretty much. And then on top of that, you can do minor surgeries as a naturopathic medical doctor. You can prescribe pharmaceuticals, hormones, drugs, etc. So the scope is pretty much the same, and the boards are just as brutal. It's a 3-day board process. So, a lot of people have this misconception of like, oh, it's voodoo science, but in Arizona, the school is actually a real medical school, and it's just as expensive too. So, yippee for that one. That's $250,000 coming up. Yay.
Just when you say minor surgeries, I mean, how minor we?
So like sutures, stuff like that. Like if you were to like cut yourself open or whatever, you can do sutures.
Cool.
There's even some naturopaths out here that I've seen that are even doing like liposuction stuff, which is crazy. I didn't know that they can do that, but apparently it's within their scope in some form of capacity. On top of that, your scope is in many ways larger. So naturopaths can also do dry needling and acupuncture because there's physical medicine involved. They can do adjustments. They're actually trained and licensed to do adjustments in physical medicine because they have osteopathic classes just like a DO does. So the scope in Arizona is awesome, and it allows one to really help their patients out more than like a medical doctor who would be like, well, I can't really do an adjustment. I can't do dry needling, so I'm gonna have to refer this out. It's more like, no, actually, I can almost do anything to help you out. So that's what my next step is.
I already have the dry needle part down, so I'll join you. We'll join forces together.
Yeah,
that's great. Stuff. That's great. So I was just about to say to you there. I don't know if you've seen the CrossFit Physician Level 1 thing that was on there lately, because I just saw Julie Fichet's podcast with Greg Glassman, and it was just like they ran level 1. They were just talking about like it was just all these doctors who were in CrossFit. So I was just like, I wonder what that was like. I'd say that was a bit mad, but
I think that's just the natural of evolution. They're seeing it too. They're smart people over there. They do know what they're doing when it comes to building out courses and basically seeing what's going to come in the future. And they do have a lot of power to help influence for the better. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that CrossFit isn't influencing for the better. They've brought fitness to the forefront. They're letting people become aware of nutritional choices. People are less afraid to get into the gym. we are social creatures. So now there's this avenue for people to be social and fit. So it seems like only a natural progression. I haven't looked into it because I'm not a physician yet, but who knows, man? Once I'm a physician, I might even go through it.
Yeah, like as both me and you, and I suppose many of the viewers and listeners here know that it's all connected. It's like it's all connected. And going back to our discussion there on assessment and how much someone should know about a particular area, there's no harm in knowing more. Because like as James Smith, the thinker, always says, he's like the main issue in everything is a lack of knowledge. He's like resources aren't the problem; it's a lack of knowledge. So I mean, the more you can start to understand and study and connect dots, I mean, the better you're going to be yourself as a person, and then the better service that you can put forward then to the athletes and clients you're going to train. And I suppose the better you can contribute. So Mike, finishing up here, what book or books are you currently reading, and also what book would you most recommend? So what books or books are you currently reading, and which book would you most recommend or give away as a gift?
Yeah, I actually read 3 to 5 hours a day, depending on the day. So
Don't
I read
lie. No, you don't.
No, I'm dead serious. Yeah, I'm dead serious.
No,
I'll give
yeah,
you
I
an
don't believe in that. You hear all these people, I read 12 books a week. It's like, no, you don't.
No, I read one book a week, not 12. No, I actually do. So I don't have cable TV. I usually get home around 4 p.m. and then my day is pretty much free.
Mike is that guy, people. Mike is that guy.
Yeah, I just like to read. But I'll give you an example. So I decided to go through precision nutrition stuff.
Oh.
And because it's the version 3. So like years ago, there was different versions and I went through that and all that. But
So is it the textbook? Is it the textbook you're going through?
yeah, so I'm going through their new textbook or whatever, version 3. So I signed up for it. I started it last week and I'm already 13 chapters in. Cool. And it's 17 chapters. So I do read 3 to 5 hours a day, typically. I do try to read one book a week. I also read a lot of research just because I have to write about a lot of research. So I'll usually read anywhere from 5 to 10 peer-reviewed studies a week.
And what do you, is that mainly, is that medicine now for medical school?
No, the research is going to be on anything human performance related, which ironically has a lot to do with the microbiome and the nervous system and all these other factors. So it's not just about program design. And then I also read one book right now, Thinking Fast. I forget the name of it now.
Yeah, Thinking Fast and Slow by Kahneman.
That's it. Yes, just started that. So I'm excited to get that one going. A client recommended it to me last week. I just got it in this weekend. So
you see that?
I see the yeah, that one. Yep.
Oh, my hand's in the way. Hold on. There we go.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one. So, I haven't started it yet. It's some amounts of like it's like the wording in it is tiny and it's like over 400 pages. Yeah, I haven't started that yet. I'm on a big skill acquisition buzz at the moment. I've been reading. These are the 3 books. This is the book I'm reading right now. Developing sport expertise. That's really so. I think I'm on chapter 9 of that, and then I finished this one last week. Non-linear pedagogy in skill acquisition. That's a phenomenal book. James actually got this and the other one I'm about to show now. But the last chapter on this is like how emotions affect how we learn. Oh, it's incredible. And then this is the other one I finished just before the last one I showed there. So skill acquisition in sport. That's a really good one too. So because I'm in the middle of skill acquisition in my master's, so I'm really deep into that right now. It's funny because when I was doing it, I was like, this is a bit dry. Is it this topic? And then I got into it, like, this topic is amazing. And so what's your top book? Or I'll give you 3 if you can't bring it down to 1. But what would your top books be that you'd give away to someone?
Well, it depends on what they want to learn. I would say for those that work with people that are in pain, you need to read The Body Keeps the Score, especially if it's chronic pain. So The Body Keeps the Score.
I don't know that book.
Yeah, it's by a Finnish, I believe he's Finnish, psychiatrist who works in trauma, and he started at the end of the Vietnam War. So he's learned a lot about how trauma and emotional disturbances manifest, somatic pain. So it's psychosomatic medicine, basically.
Yes.
So there's that. I think it's an old one. It's very old.
It's not Wilhelm Reich. It's not his stuff. No, he's not Finnish anyway. I think he was German or Austrian. But I know Elliot Holtz does a lot of his Wilhelm Reich.
Yeah, and then there's another book by Sherry Rogers. This one's a little bit old. I think it was published in 2002, but Detoxify or Die. I still think there's a lot of good principles in that one, just because we are in a very toxic world, pollution, and from planes and cars and the food, and just we really kind of messed up the planet. So
Yeah,
that's a good book to read, so you can kind of like understand how there's many ways of being sick, but there's only really a few ways to get sick, etc. So that book's fantastic for any coach that wants to understand detoxification, just because there's this paradigm out there that says, oh, the human body can detox just fine no matter what, which is not true. So looking at that book was great. I would also probably say just anyone that wants to understand movement, you have to read Gray Cook's Movement. It's a great book.
yeah. It is. And it reads like as if Gray is speaking to you. It's just like you can hear Gray through the pages. All right, last question then we wrap up, because this turned into its own little podcast. But if you could invite 5 people to dinner, dead or alive, who would you invite and why?
Oh man, I would probably invite Einstein.
That's who Mike Boyle said that today. Einstein.
Yeah, Einstein. Man, that's a tough one. You, obviously, duh. Einstein, you. Dude, that's a question that no one's ever asked me. Yeah, man. You got me stumped. Most people can't stump me with questions. You, Einstein.
Albert, how are you?
Yeah, honestly, I would bring James Fitzgerald, because I like to hear him ask questions.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Just because of the questions he'd ask.
Yeah. I'd probably do something similar to what you did, actually, when you were back out here. I would bring like Buddy Morris, Drobot, Jeff Barron, James.
Yeah, Mark Verstegen, Dan Fast, and McMillan. Yeah, it was a pretty sweet dinner. And Anthony too from the Cardinals was there. Neil Rampy, yeah, it was savage. Hopefully didn't leave anyone else. Brett Contreras, he was also there with his massive glutes. So Mike, listen, that was fantastic. Really great segment. So for the viewers and listeners, they got to get to know Mike Bann, the man as I call him. So you can see that this guy is really intelligent, really well read. Makes me feel kind of dumb. Makes me feel kind of guilty when I'm not reading or educating myself. But yeah, and he just thought, no. He knows how good he is. So just for the viewers and listeners, Mike is like one of the lead coaches on the CCP program, particularly when it comes to assessment. I mean, the guy's a master at that, and we're definitely going to get deep into topics around that in some future episodes with Mike. But that's it for this segment, and stay tuned for our interview with our guest.
Thanks for having me.